My name is Anthony Tone Show Nunez, and today I'm reviewing Spider-Man Far From Home. Let's talk about it. Okay, guys, so before we get started, this is a spoiler review. So if you have not seen Spider-Man Far From Home, this is a good time to stop watching. Come back after you watch the movie. Okay, so this movie is definitely an MCU movie through and through. And what do I mean by that? This movie has to do double work as far as the narrative. The narrative has to serve the movie itself of Spider-Man Far From Home, and it also serves kind of an epilogue for Endgame. And how it does this, it kind of explains away how the particular people, in this case the school, handled the dusting, which they called the blip. So basically the students who disappeared during the dusting, they kind of had to start their year over, which kind of sucked. And the students who didn't disappear, they basically continued aging and going through different classes. That's how come you have this mixed classes of students who came back and students who always been there in the school. And they handled it quite comically by showing the students in the band just reappear in the middle of band practice. Now we saw a serious take on this when Aunt May was having the charity event with Spider-Man. That was for people who were displaced because of the blip. Basically, they got dusted, they came back, and their apartment, their homes were taken because they were gone 5 years. So now they found themselves homeless. So that check that Happy brought, that was basically so to that charity, so those people can find the home and benefit those people who were homeless because of the blip. Now, they could have gone a little darker, but Spider-Man Far From Home is basically a fun family movie. But you can only imagine all the relationships, all the marriages that were broken because of the blip. Because 1 minute your spouse is there, 5 years later people move on and they come back and there's no marriage. So it could have gone much darker, but it did not. Now, Spider-Man Far From Home, this is a love letter to Iron Man. That's what I would call this movie. And it does it at a disservice to Spider-Man, I would say. Because the character of Spider-Man is a lighthearted character who's always cracking jokes when he's fighting crime. We saw this in the first movie. We've seen it in all the comic books. But this is something that's uniquely missing from this movie. So Far From Home is far from the Spider-Man we love. And remember the charity event that Spider-Man was with Aunt May was attending. Well, if you guys saw the trailer, there's a scene that was missing in the movie I saw. Was that missing from the movie? You saw that whole scene where he's fighting the bank robbers and they end up all webbed up. And while he's fighting them, he's having little jokes and cracking jokes. And at the end, he tells the cops, "Hey, I was doing your job. Hey, I'm going on vacation," and he walks out the door. That whole scene was missing from the movie I saw. Put in the comments if that scene was in the movie you saw, because if they cut it, it might have been for pacing. Maybe the pace of the movie was off with that scene. Maybe the movie was running too long. I don't know, but it was definitely missing. I don't like it when they have movies where they show you something in the trailer, a la Suicide Squad, Jared Leto, and then you go watch the movie and that whole scene is missing. But I thought that scene was important because it showed that Spider-Man that we're used to, always cracking jokes while he's fighting crime. He's always running his mouth. He's kind of like Deadpool. That's how Spider-Man has always been. That whole quip and the whole jokes are missing from Spider-Man Far From Home. And it kind of like lunges at the fact that this movie is a much more serious Spider-Man movie. There's a lot of responsibility that Spider-Man's trying to evade throughout the movie, and I don't think it's a coincidence. We've all seen the scene where Uncle Ben gets killed, right? And we all seen the scene where Bruce Wayne gets his parents get killed also in Crime Alley. Those are scenes that we feel like we don't have to see in movies anymore. And Spider-Man Homecoming did not show the whole Uncle Ben scene. They didn't really talk about Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben's been MIA, allowing Happy to move in and kind of play that Uncle Ben role. And it's kind of did a disservice, I think, to the movie a little, because with great power comes great responsibility. We heard that with Uncle Ben's lips, and that whole line has not been heard in Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great Iron Man responsibility for this particular character. And I feel like that's a whole disservice to Spider-Man himself, because the whole Uncle Ben arc is very important to Spider-Man, because it shows him the responsibility that he has to take with these powers, and it kind of thrusts him to do good. And if he had that Uncle Ben character in this movie, then he would have never gave away Edith to Crazy Mysterio, right? So the whole fact that Uncle Ben is missing from this movie and the first movie, it kind of left a void where Spider-Man has not learned that whole responsibility that he should be having at this point, and that he doesn't really have that person in his life who's serving as an anchor. And that's why, like, they kind of use the character of Happy for that here, but I don't think it has the same gravitas as Uncle Ben. speaking of Mysterio, the character of Beck is incredibly well done by Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job in this movie. He not only played a great hero, but when he flipped and he went crazy, I was shocked. Everybody was shocked. He played a great control freak who wants his cape ironed, right? He played both characters so well, and it was with such an ease. The whole Spider-Man MCU movies have really benefited from great villains. In the first movie, we got Michael Keaton as the Vulture. In this movie, Jake Gyllenhaal pulls a great Mysterio throughout the whole movie until he actually you find out that he's an evil bad guy, which you knew from the comics, right? You really bought into the fact that this guy might be good, right? Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job playing both sides of the coin. And not only that, but they gypped us, right? The whole Earth 616, how many of your favorite YouTubers made a whole bunch of money just talking about Earth 616 and how this movie was going to introduce X-Men and you were going to get Fantastic Four and all these other crazy theories, because in the trailer he mentioned Earth 616 and that he's from another dimension. They really sold us on that. Like, they got us good in this movie. I went into the movie thinking that he was from another dimension. That's how good it was. Mysterio's illusions and his line was on point. Jake Gyllenhaal really brought this character to life. It's really sad that if they killed him off, right, it's really sad because I thought it'd be a great villain moving forward. And another thing about Mysterio that kind of tickled me was they never really showed how his powers worked. And I thought that was kind of odd that basically Samuel Jackson's character, and Nick Fury, just basically accepted that this guy has powers. He never explains how he gets his abilities, how his abilities work. And that, I guess that was kind of like because they didn't want to let the cat out the bag and show that this guy's a villain and he's using illusions. But it would have been cool if they actually showed us how his powers were anchored in supposedly against illusions, but they never really touched on that. Everybody as a whole does a great job in this movie as far as acting. I think Tom Holland right now is Spider-Man. Like, at first I had a little bit of doubt, but after watching this movie, he definitely has the soul of Spider-Man, and he definitely proved it in this movie. No disrespect to Maguire, but this Spider-Man is definitely a Spider-Man that I'm getting used to, and that I think that I'm definitely looking forward to see a lot more of. Everybody did a good job, though. Even Ned. Ned's a horrible friend. How you going to talk about you're going to be a bachelor and then you just dip on your friend? All the characters, all the actors who played the high school kids, they did a great job with the little amount of time they had. They didn't have a lot of time, honestly, but with the little time that they had, they did a great job. Zendaya did a great job as Mary J. She really didn't have a lot to work with, but the little that she did have to work with, I thought she did a cool job. And also, I like the whole dark twist that she has. She's not like the typical Mary Jane, you know, like the curvaceous, funny, sexy Mary Jane that you see in the comics. Like, her character has kind of like a Daria twistiness to her, and I really enjoyed that. So I thought Happy did a great job. Everybody in this movie basically brought their A game, and it was a very entertaining movie. I never thought this was not a fun movie. I'm actually looking forward to rewatching this movie and hopefully seeing what the whole scrolls, like the whole twist that brings about. Because if you think about it now, it wasn't Samuel Jackson who tranked Ned. It was actually a scroll. So the whole movie is actually worth rewatching just for those little moments, because it's not Samuel Jackson, so it kind of put the whole thing on his head. I'm really looking forward to seeing Jay Jonah in the next movie as well. And the guy from State Farm, I think he's going to do a great Jay Jonah. I think I've already heard his voice in the comics, right? So everybody definitely did a great job as far as the acting went. I don't think that there was any faults there. The special effects were so big. Everything was so awesome. Like, this movie definitely stepped up its A game, right? If you thought they had a good game in the first one, this game was crazy, right? Especially with the visual effects. Not only did the visual effects from the visual effects team from Disney did a great job, but the visual effects team that Mysterio brought, like all the villains that he brought, all the people were like regular people who were basically kind of like Iron Man villains. It's interesting that all the villains so far for Spider-Man that we've seen in Homecoming and Far From Home have not been the A-list villains, because all the great villains like Green Goblin, the Lizard, Doc Ock were already used in the Sam Raimi movies. So the MCU was like, wait a second, we're going to bring in the second tier villains, right? These B-C level villains like the Vulture in the first one. And here we have Mysterio, and they pulled them off so great. And I think it's really interesting, and it's also a lot of Iron Man worshiping here, that that Vulture from the first movie and his whole crew were kind of like side effects of the Avengers fight with the aliens. And in this one, Mysterio is basically an Iron Man villain who never really became an Iron Man villain. So again, Spider-Man, here he is trying to play Iron Man instead of playing Spider-Man. And that's something that I kind of like ticked me off throughout the whole movie. Like, he's really just trying to be another Iron Man. And I guess this is because this is what you get when you get the MCU and Sony working together. You get a lot of Iron Man worshiping. Instead of being the next Spider-Man, he's trying to be the next Iron Man. And that's something that I'm sure that Spider-Man fans are probably a little ticked out about. But besides that, the movie did a great job of incorporating Mysterio into this world that they already created for Spider-Man. And not 1 second did you doubt that this was a Spider-Man villain and that the effects that they were using, like it was all done seamlessly. So great jobs from the VFX team. Something else that bugged me was the whole Peter Tingle thing. Now, instead of Spidey sense, they call it a Peter Tingle. It's really funny because they're making basically fun of the fact that his aunt came up with this. That's something that your family member basically or show somebody who comes to visit you just to embarrass you. So the Peter Tingle, how come it didn't work when she threw the banana at him? And if you're gonna say, oh wait a second, the banana wasn't lethal, so the spider sense didn't really activate. Well, how about a train then? A train is pretty lethal, right? So basically, Peter gets hit by a train when Mysterio tricks him, and his spider sense didn't come out there either. So I thought it was kind of like a little bit of lazy writing there. That all of a sudden at the end of the movie, he tells Happy, "Ooh, I have like like a sixth sense that I'm gonna use now." All of a sudden, the Peter Tingle can be used at will, but before that, it wasn't working. And you're gonna say, "Oh wait a second, it's a stress from Endgame." No, so I thought that was basically a cheap writing tool right there. That his Spidey sense didn't work with the banana, it didn't work with the train, but all of a sudden his Spidey sense is working perfect at the end of the movie. So they could have developed that a little bit more and show why his Spidey sense wasn't working. That kind of ticked me off. Just like the whole thing with Mysterio. Like I wish that I know it was an illusion, but I wish that Mysterio at least try to explain like how he got his powers or how he got to our dimension. Basically, they wrote off the whole interdimensional thing. All of a sudden, everybody on YouTube just completely forgot about it. No more videos talking about Earth 616. Your favorite YouTubers just basically they walk that back quietly. Matter of fact, none of your YouTubers that you follow even walk that back. Everybody basically just sat on and said, "Oop, that did not happen." It was all a Mysterio joke, right? So, and all I thought this movie was very entertaining. Like I actually want to watch it again, like I said, just to see the new things that I'll find now, knowing that it was Skrulls all along. So this movie is definitely great. I would say it's another great MCU movie, and I mean that in all the sense of the word, that this is an MCU movie. It's definitely a Spider-Man movie, but it's not, being that it is under Disney, it's not as independent as I wish it would. I hope in the next movie, Spider-Man actually gets his camera, and we get to see a little bit more Peter Parker and a little less Tony Stark. But in all, I really had a great time watching this movie. Did you guys watch the movie? And if you did you have that scene with those guys in masks? Did they cut that out of your movie as well? Let me know in the comments. What did you think about Spider-Man Far From Home? It was definitely far from home as far as I think the character of Spider-Man in some sense, but in another sense, I feel like they really nailed it with this Peter Parker, and I think Tom Holland's doing a great job. But anyway, guys, this is the Tone Show. That's what I thought about the movie. As always, guys, leave a comment below, hit the like button. Tone Show, ooh.
Like and subscribe for more Tone Show.
Good coffee.